get up in the morning, keep on hitting the snooze, grab my shirt and pants and a nice pair of shoes. I hear mama yelling, the bus is almost here. Down the stairs I run, hear it getting near, so I take a look around, and what do I see? Yesterday's pizza, Pop-Tarts, and gummy cheese.
Children and parents who share 5+ meals per week are 25% less likely to develop nutritional health issues.
Cookies, French dip and chips, a soda or a big sweet tea. I can't get enough, no I can't get enough for those calories, cause my ears.
One of the things that we all recognize is the high prevalence of obesity with youth. And to get to youth, you have to go over to where they are, and most of the day they're in school.
Time to change bad habits, eat more veggies and fruits, more salads and a whole lot less fried foods. Get off of the couch, go outside and play, and you start feeling better right away. When I take a look around, what will I see? Ahead of me, cause I'm diabetes free.
It's so simple about how to solve diabetes. It's so simple how to solve obesity. It's so simple how to solve some of our pain problems that we all are suffering from. But we've got to make the choice to make that difference in our lifestyle. And if we don't do it, it ain't gonna happen.
It was killing me. Yes, it was, it was. It's killing me. My ear is killing me. Oh, it's killing me.
I'm Sharon Denham. I'm the project director for the Vulnerable Population Project, where we're aiming to prevent type 2 diabetes in rural Appalachian counties. Part of 13 states are in the Appalachian region. The rates for diabetes are higher than in any other geographical area in the United States. We have a largely Caucasian population that lives in the northern and central Appalachia. However, in southern part of the Appalachian region, we do see that the numbers of African American population are much higher. The problem of diabetes is often linked with obesity and physical inactivity. And what we have seen by looking at the maps from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention is that our obesity rates are some of the highest in the whole country. Many people, up to 1/3 of the population, are actually overweight or obese. This is a major concern. The Appalachian lifestyle was very different than what we have now in years gone by. In fact, people ate big meals, much like they do today, but they went outside and worked. They worked hard. They burned up those calories. Today's people, we eat those big meals. Those portion sizes are pretty large. We consume a lot of empty calories, and then we sit. We sit for long periods of time, often not realizing what we're doing to our bodies. We need to begin thinking about how do we become more active? How do we get outside and do some planned activity? And it has to be planned these days because our lifestyle. So burning up those calories is something we have to think about in the plans that we create for each and every day.
People that don't have diabetes themselves, so many have family members and friends that do. And, the better job that we can do in educating people, not to be afraid of this disease, but that we can deal with it, we can address the issues.
I think role of family is huge, and I say that because one, it's the setting often where the diabetic is eating, and support, just family support and encouragement, I think are huge as motivation factors for the individual to make the changes that are needed.
My father actually, he died at, I was a small child, he was in a car wreck, but he was a borderline diabetic. And my mother was a nurse. So I did know a lot about health issues, you know, growing up. My mother always made sure that we, pretty much, me and my brother, you know, she didn't want us to get diabetes.
Right.
And, because she could see the effects of it, you know, in her job. And, and I also, you know, I have friends and their family members, but now no one in my immediate family has diabetes.
I'm quite sure. I know my mother-in-law has diabetes, my brother-in-law, and I have two brother-in-laws that has diabetes.
Being around my father-in-law, that his lifestyle has changed. Like, he has to be conscious of his, like, he has to take his blood sugar level every time he eats, and act accordingly with the numbers.
My mom was a diabetic. I have about 5 sisters and 2 brothers that's diabetics, and you know, it's just a disease you don't play with. It's one you can control, you know, but you have to work hard at doing it, and once you get yourself on a program and stick to it, you know, it's kind of easy to deal with, you know.
Well, my grandmother, my great-grandma, she has diabetes. She has to have insulin. My dad, my brother's actually 33. He's had it for a while, and he found out recently, well, a couple years ago he had it. My aunts, maybe one of my uncles, my grandma has it, and my dad's mom, she actually died from diabetes.
And I don't know, the doctors may give out literature to parents or to other family members, you know, about what you need to cook or what you need to keep at the house. Because I know how I am. If I keep sweets at the house, I'm gonna eat those. You know, I just love sweets. And so it's really hard for a lot of people to control that. And I think it has a lot to do with what's kept in the house, what kind of food.
My mother had it, so I think all 7 of us have diabetics. I think my brother Miller, I don't think he has to take medication. I don't know exactly what he do. Maybe he watches his diet, but I don't think he on the medication. But I think my youngest take all of us diabetics.
My mother was diabetic, and she was taking insulin. She's passed away. And my daddy also was diabetic. He was on the pills, taking the pills. And I had a brother. He passed away about 2 months ago. And my baby brother, he's on pills.
You know, if your family understands the type of foods you need to eat, they're more likely not to bring in a lot of things that you would love to eat and, you know, that would be tempting to you to cause you to eat the wrong thing and run your sugar up. So it is very important that your family understands the types of foods you need to eat.
I do not have it in my family, but I know that in our area, in our region, the rates are high.
Most of my friends at school are overweight, and most of the kids at school, not just my friends, are overweight. And that's a big thing with Mississippians. I mean, not just Mississippians, but we have the highest obesity level in the United States. And I think that sometimes it's how we've been raised. Like, if our parents don't eat very healthy, then we end up not eating healthy. We can change it, but we kind of choose not to.
On my father's side, and my mother and my father had diabetes. My father had about 3 sisters who had complications from diabetes and died with it, you know.
I think here in rural Mississippi, in particular in Winston County, our biggest problem is the lack of really the programming and the efforts made to really educate people.
I'd like to just spend a few minutes talking about the difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Many times people get these terms confused. In the past, type 1 diabetes was often called juvenile diabetes and often occurred in children or folks under 20 years old. When we talk about those with type 1 diabetes, we're usually talking about 4 to 6% of the people that actually have been diagnosed with type 1. Type 2 diabetes is the one of greater concern today. In fact, probably 94 to 95% of the people that have diabetes have type 2. Type 2 diabetes is a disease that we generally would see in much older people. In fact, the older we get, the higher risk we are for this disease. But today we're seeing type 2 diabetes being diagnosed in people much younger. In fact, 20s, 30s, and even some young people still in their teens are being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. This is of great concern because if you have this disease for a long period of time, in other words 15, 20 years, you begin to have complications from that disease. And those complications then can reduce the quality of life one has. Type 2 diabetes can be managed, it can be prevented, it can be delayed. And often the best way to do that is get our weight down to the appropriate measures that we should have for our height and age, and be active. Very often people are not diagnosed with diabetes until they actually have had the disease even 5 or 6 years. And many times it's actually the complications that are bringing them to the doctor. In other words, they may be having headaches that don't go away, which could be a symptom of high blood pressure, or maybe they're having difficulty seeing, or maybe they're noticing that they're not feeling the ends of their fingers or their toes like they used to feel. And those are all indicating that there are some side effects occurring that go with type 2 diabetes. Type 2 is preventable. Maybe not in every case, but in many of the cases. In fact, the majority of cases of type 2 can be prevented by maintaining our appropriate weight and staying active all through our lifetime.
To me, diabetes is a disease that can attack your body if you don't properly take care of yourself. In the past, I always thought it was caused because you ate too much sugar, but since then I have learned different.
I think about people that, you know, have a problem with their sugar.
Something that you have to live with for the rest of your life, and illness that I know can cause complications, something chronic, you know, and something that I wish I had never had. But you learn to live, you know, you can live with it.
First, I mean, the most profound is disease, and it's I know it's detrimental to those affected by it and those around it. But in a nutshell, just it does not have a very good connotation to it when you hear it.
Diabetes is a illness. You can say sort of like a disease.
When I think about a main illness that's becoming a bigger issue into the community of today, a lot of people not really big on health and being active and not watching the foods they eat. So they're big on sugars. I always look for things that taste good, or a little sugar. I always fix anything. And starches. That's what I think about, sugars and starches.
Fear, until you learn about it. You have to, deny yourself of some of the things that you eat. And that's about it. And often in your mind, you think about your sight and your feet and your legs and stuff.
Well, poor eating habits, stress, just not the right diet, having the right diet.
I know that you have to watch your sugar a lot, and that if you don't, then you have serious medical problems.
One of my instructors in nursing school gave me the best explanation. She really made me understand diabetes when she said sticky blood. You think about something sweet, it's sticky. Or people with diabetes, when that sugar gets in their blood, the blood gets sticky, it can't move the way it's supposed to, which leads to the amputations and the lower extremities not getting proper circulation, things like that.
I do not have it, but I have several family members that do. And we're all a family that likes to eat, and that's what I think about when I hear the word diabetes. Oh, you're so restricted now to what you can eat. And also I've had family members that have had severe problems with diabetes, so there is a worry there. Sores that do not heal and things like that.
In the old days when I hear we talked about, we usually always call it sugar, but I think for me it is that the body is not processing the glucose and the stuff that you acquire by the foods and things you're eating.
First thing that really comes to my mind is a very serious issue and disease problem that we have throughout the nation, but particularly here in Mississippi. And I think people really don't understand the word diabetes and the impact that it really makes on lives. And you think about diabetes, as I think about friends and family members I've had over the years with diabetes, we try to make it really complex, but it's really not, because there's basically two types of diabetes, type 1 and type 2.
It runs in my father's family. He was a diabetic, and most, if not all, of his siblings were diabetic. I know it's a chronic disease, but you can live a normal, healthy life if you manage it well.
Sometimes people ask the question, is this a genetic disease? And I usually say, well, it could be a genetic disease, but really it's a family disease. And by that I mean it's a family disease because we spend our time together within a household. We all eat the same food that's brought into the home. And we have traditions and celebrations and rituals that we share. And those things are the things that often make us more inclined to have higher risk for diabetes within our families. If you're a person that has type 2 diabetes, then chances are there's other people in your family or even in your household that have it also. Being from the Appalachian region, I know that biscuits and gravy are a favorite for many of us. We tend to like fried foods. Meat and potatoes, too many sugary drinks. We're consuming foods every day that are processed. It's really important for us to begin thinking about how it is we eat. How much food are we eating? I know if I go to a restaurant, they often serve me a platter, and that platter is supposed to be for one person. And realistically, if I eat all of that, I probably have consumed enough calories for my entire day, and maybe even a little extra. And so we have to think about the foods that we're eating, the way we're cooking them. Most people, when they have diabetes, have a difficult time managing the disease. When we think about managing diabetes, it really is a number of things you have to watch for. Certainly eating the right foods, eating the right portion size, avoiding very sugary products and things that are high in carbohydrates are important. But there's other things too one needs to be careful about. For instance, do you go to the doctor and see them regular? Being active. It's very important that we exercise and get some vigorous activity every day. We also need to think about medication. Now, everyone that has type 2 diabetes doesn't always take medicine. Some people can monitor their disease and manage it very well by the foods that they eat and by the exercise that they do. Making sure that you don't have sores that aren't healing. Sometimes when people have a really big belly, they have a difficult time seeing their feet. And paying attention to what's happening with your feet is important. Another thing that people don't think about very often is taking care of their eyes, going to the dentist. There's a very great body of knowledge growing that if you have poor oral or dental care, that you may be also at higher risk for diabetes or for complications related to that. We do know also that type 2 diabetes can lead to complications, and those complications might be something like high blood pressure, a heart attack, a stroke, even cancer. People with diabetes are at higher risk for cancer as well. One of the things that's been really made clear over the last few years through research and study is that if we prevent type 2 diabetes, we often are also preventing all of those other complications that might come from it. So this is a very good reason for us to really be much more concerned about our lifestyles.
My diabetes is just as good to me as I am to you. It depends on what I eat, and how I eat depends on how my diabetes. I do very well, really. It's doing good.
When I was first told that I was diabetic in 1996, I wasn't given enough information to really understand the disease. I was just told to stay off sweets, and that's what I did. But every time I would go into the doctor, he would say, well, I've got to increase your medicine. And I wondered why, but he never did give me pamphlets, didn't send me to anybody. And it got to the point where I just started increasing with meds, you know. And finally I found somebody that put me on the right road. A dietitian sat down and we wrote out menus for me to go by, and she just told me about my carbohydrates and everything, and finally I got it kind of under control.
I know diet and exercise is two of the biggest things, you know, for diabetes. Because I have read and seen where people have changed their diet and exercised and lost weight, and they were able to get off of their insulin. Isn't that wonderful?
I know they have to watch the sugar a lot and watch what they eat, and not eat too much of sugar and candy and everything.
Watch what they eat and exercise. Of course, see their doctor. Go to a physician for it.
A lot of people in Noxubee County is low income, and therefore their eating choices are limited because they're low income, and the cheaper the food is, the more high fructose corn syrup there is, the more refined sugars there are, and sometimes there's no choice but to consume those foods, and the obesity rate is pretty high around here, and that also is a contributor, because of all that, and then we got the McDonald's that opened up.
I've heard about that. Have a good diet, exercise, make sure they take their insulin when they're supposed to, staying away from all the sugar, all the fat, just making sure they eat healthy.
I tried to, when I learned that I had diabetes, I took an interest in it, and I started looking at the different ways to live with it. And then there are some people that, or they just, it's just a little sugar, you know, pay it off, kind of play it off like that, and they don't take a real interest in it. But I try to take an interest in mine because of being aware that it will cause you problems down the road if you don't kind of manage it.
They need to make sure that they can try to stay stress-free as they possibly can. They got to make sure that if they're prescribed medication, make sure that they take their medication. They should exercise, and you know, the diet. I don't know if I said that. You know, they probably in most cases definitely need to change their eating habit, because here in the South, our still level, we eat a lot of fried food, and it's just a part of our culture, both black and white. because this is one good. I mean, not a good thing, but this is a thing that illness affect all of us, and so we pretty much love our peas, cornbread, fried chicken, and so we just have to try to stay away from diets like that.
And that's pretty much all. I mean, all we can do. Just to encourage them. I think that you're eating too much of this, or I think that you might not want to eat that. You might want to exercise a little more, and just don't tell them what to do, but just to encourage them and just let them know that we care.
If we set up workshops, get out flyers that are appetizing, try to bring in as many people as we can, and then we can always talk about it in our churches too. We can always talk about it and try to get other people involved.
Again, cut down on the sweets, the fatty foods, really watch the diet and walk. I don't think people realize the seriousness of it when you have surgery or you have sores or any illnesses that you don't heal as well. I don't think people realize that that's a big factor with diabetes and how dangerous it is.
People know about it, but with diabetes, sometimes even a person that has it doesn't know it until, they go for something else. One of my co-workers is that way. She went for surgery, and she said borderline. And Vincent and I say you're either diabetic or you're not. Kind of like pregnant, you're not a little bit pregnant. You either are or you're not.
It's not the end of the world. If something came up, I can deal with it. A few adjustments in my life, and I'm back to living a normal life just like the next person. I mean, eat healthy. Everybody should eat healthy. Everybody needs to exercise. So I said, you're doing something that you need to do anyway, as far as eating healthy and exercise. In order to push yourself, you can come up with slogans, and or you can just say, I survived diabetes 2011, or I conquered it. Different little things, whatever motivates you to defeat it, do what you have to do.
If you eat wrong, but still, it's in the back of your mind, I shouldn't have ate this, if you get food, well, I shouldn't have ate that much. It's just an everyday struggle, really.
If you do what your physician tells you to do, if you will take your medication, if you will eat properly and exercise and go get your eyes checked and go have your cardiac evaluations and have your lab work done, that you can live a perfectly normal life and live to be as old as you want to.
In this project, we're working with diabetes coalitions from each county. We've had some training sessions for the coalitions. We have county liaisons who are working with the coalition and working with the Center for Appalachian Philanthropy here in Ohio, where I'm based out of. And we're making some progress. The coalitions are a way that local people can work with other local people. This is the only way it's going to get done. We have to work with each other. We have to support one another. If we don't hold hands, join forces together, nobody is coming to help us to do this. And I often use the term citizen action. And to me, citizen action is all of us working together to make a difference in the place that we live. We need you. We have to do it ourselves. And so we need you as an important link in that big chain that ties our community together and fights this silent killer of type 2 diabetes.
Oftentimes we find ourselves meeting, and we fail to put those meetings into action. We're doing this in one particular group. We're trying to partner all of our churches and charitable organizations, all that together. Going back to what I said earlier, communication's our problem. Trying to break down some of those barriers that's, again, no one's fault. It's just by tradition or by default it's been there. We're trying to break those down, bring everyone together, say, hey, we can communicate. You don't even have to pick up the phone. There's so many things we could use.
Exactly.
But through that, we get going, and then it feels like one step forward, two steps back.
Yeah.
So we're now going through a process to coach ourselves into putting this all into action.
Our role is, I really think, to take the leadership role with other organizations, other opportunities, just like the Diabetic Coalition here in Winston County, to one, provide facilities where people have the opportunity to come, to sit in a comfortable atmosphere, to learn, to partake, to ask questions, to interact. I see our role, to work with other groups and entities to try to spread, the word to every person that we possibly can.
Being that I am a pastor, one of the probably the most available medium right now that I see would be the churches on Sunday mornings and the studies and the vacation Bible schools and things like that, where you have a larger sect of the population would be in attendance of those areas. So we may have to start looking at our pastors and our deacons and our church leaders to get that information out, whether it be in a newsletter or however we need to do it.
I mean, we really need to have meetings, where we can bring people in to let them know that this disease, it really, if it can't be prevented, if we know what to do, and we know that, it could happen to any of us, whether we're young or whether we're old, and that the information that we are given, is to help us and to help us to live longer.
So many people, sit back, they take things for granted and not maybe in a proactive mode. And I guess I take that as a personal challenge, trying to help people be in more of a proactive mode. And I guess that's what's so exciting, particularly with the Diabetic Coalition here in our county, and what that particular group is doing within our county, along with other groups and organizations that are promoting education.
Physical fitness has been a priority of mine, and we've really been pushing that through the fire department. We have a weight room and another area that we're trying to encourage law enforcement. And when I say try to encourage, we haven't imposed any requirements yet. We're trying to do that. Excited about some things we've done with our parks. One park recently is, we're completing the project now. We added another walking track in town, and it's more of a community park, and hope that the activity at that park has really increased because it looks good. There's a lot more pride there, resurfaced basketball courts, things of that nature, just to try to get maybe kids back out moving. That's one thing that's very evident around here. There was a time, not many years ago, anywhere you turn, you'd see young people out playing ball, specifically basketball.
One of the young men that's down at the park participated in the diabetes classes that we have put on, and so he's very instrumental in helping Dean Park. He started a walking for the community, and we have 2 walking clubs.
Get someone that know more about it to come out and speak to, the people, and get them started with the basics, get them started, tell them what diabetes is and tell them what they can do to prevent it, because most people don't know. So if the churches could get people to come in and talk to everybody about it, I think that would be a good idea.
I think the leaders have to be interested in the health of their congregation. And if they're interested in their health as well as the health of their flock, then they will promote them coming to things, or they will host health fairs. If 2 or 3 churches got together and had a men's health day, and those pastors really promoted it to those men, they came and they told those men to come on, we're going, I don't think that on an individual basis it will work. In Kemper County, it's a bunch of churches.
Is everybody putting their personal agendas aside and saying, okay, here's our problems, how do we address those problems? And once those problems are identified, then come to an agreement on how we're going to begin to address those problems step by step on the local level. I don't think we solve things on a national level or state level. I think you solve things on a local level first. And I think when state and national sees those changes and those results, then I think you prompt those changes at those higher levels.
You know, when you're aware of things, it helps you to, if you're a leader of the community, you do your best to try to spread the word, because that's why we are saying that we are in the predicament that we're in, because our people are uneducated.
I think the main thing is to let people know how dangerous it is for family members when they have diabetes to take care of themselves, the problems with the sores, the surgeries, the healing.
I think if churches did some little workshops, and had, the same way that you do a Bible study, do a study on diabetes, but if you can, do it when everybody's there.
Yeah.
Don't make it a night when they've got to come back out, for something, because they're just not going to tend to come and do that. But if you can do it along with another type of a program that you're having, to have a special speaker and come and share, I think, makes a big difference.
I mean, to be honest, but sometimes I really think we're missing the sum total of the whole, with the bits and pieces. We all want to feel good about what we're doing, perhaps, and we are doing good things. Every group, every entity that I can think of, is doing great things. But if we could pull all those resources and all that energy together for that one common good. And I think we're headed in that direction, but we're not there.
As you can see through the film that you just watched, we have many people in our communities with type 2 diabetes. Many of our friends and neighbors, loved ones, people we care about, are living with type 2 diabetes. We need to do more about this disease than we have in the past. We're very fortunate in that each of the counties has a diabetes coalition to address the problem of diabetes in the local county. But the truth is, we all need to be involved. If we don't do it for ourselves, there's nobody going to be able to do it for us. We really need to find ways to work together to stop this disease. Largely, type 2 diabetes is preventable. It's a lifestyle disease. It's a problem that we all need to work at. It's very easy to overeat, eat too much, pile that food on our plate just a little bit too high, eat an extra snack that we really didn't need, and then just sit way too long. We need to be able to support one another so we can change these behaviors. As we think about policy and the environment and how each of us can change our behavior so that we can all be more healthy and have a better quality of life. One of the things that we're doing now in the future is we're working with the coalitions and really focusing on their work in the community with young and old to prevent type 2 diabetes. In addition to that, we're starting a faith-based health ministry where we're inviting churches to come and join together that can help the church understand the way body, mind, and spirit work together so they can be healthy in every sense of the word. I hope that you'll check out these programs, that you'll connect with your local diabetes coalition and find the information that you need to make your life healthier, and start right now.
We have these amazing bodies, and they overcome awful things. I mean, the men who have been in wars and have lost limbs and have learned to walk with prosthetics, the body has an amazing ability to cure itself. But we have to make some choices about what we're doing to it for it to be able to kind of clean up what we're hurting it with.
My shirt and pants and a nice pair of shoes. I hear mama yelling, the bus is almost here. Down the stairs I run, hear it dead near. So I take a look around, and what do I see? Yesterday's pizza, Pop-Tarts and gummy treats. All those gummy treats. I can't get up in the morning, keep on hitting the snooze. Grab my shirt and pants and a nice pair of shoes. I hear mama yelling, the bus is almost here. Down the stairs I run, hear it getting near, so I take a look around, and what do I see? Yesterday's pizza, Pop-Tarts, and gummy treats. Oh, those gummy treats. So give me some cookies, French dip and chips, a soda or a big sweet tea. I can't get enough, no I can't get enough for those calories, 'cause my eating is killing me. Oh, my eating is killing me. Time to change bad habits, eat more veggies and fruits, more salads and a whole lot less fried foods. Get off of the couch, go outside and play, and you start feeling better right away. When I take a look around, what will I see? A healthy me, 'cause I'm diabetes free. Diabetes won't get me. So don't give me no cookie, French dip and chip, no soda or a big sweet tea. I've had enough, just I've had